Oh, it's already 6:31. We already been talking a little bit, guys. Episode 27 of the Columbus DJ podcast. We're here with Christian Bistany and Nicholas Brenner. Christian, I don't even know if that's how I pronounce your last name. Is that correct at all?
That is very good, actually.
I'll take that.
Most people don't get that right. Bistany.
Bistany. All right, cool.
Yeah, I've gotten Bistany a lot, but
No,
it is what it is. It's not an easy one. It's not an easy one.
But you guys know I'm here with
Thank you for having us.
My boy James Corrupt. Corrupt's here too. What's happening, buddy?
Not much, bro. Just surviving a pandemic. How about you?
Good, man. How was not the podcast, Fireproof last night? End up going?
It was really good. They did a couple new items on the menu. They did like a $6 Wagyu hot dog that was really good. It was actually really good. Like, you should try it.
Wagyu hot dog? That feels like a oxymoron.
And then we got a burger. The burger's like $14. It's pretty filling. So they definitely did some like more price effective items for Wednesday specials, which should help them because they have a lot of high priced items too. So
have you guys been going to like get food at restaurants just to kind of like keep places alive? Like
I have. I mean, well, actually I do most. Hey Felix, get down. I do mostly like Uber Eats, but like the ones that the company I work for, I'm always out.
Gotcha.
For the most part.
Yeah, my mom.
Go ahead.
My mom visited last week, and then like there's like we went to Lavash, and you had to order like on the patio over phone. So it was like it was literally the first time I've been outside to get food, you know. So
it's gonna be weird for a while.
Weird. There's people. There's humans.
You gotta get out. You gotta get some sun.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, baby.
I feel like I've already contributed to like the food business. I never cooked like up until like quarantine, and now I cook every day. So like I'm like, you know, the restaurant, I've given the restaurant business my money. Now I'm trying to make sure I save while, you know, stuff's a little uncertain.
Sure.
Buy more DJ gear.
Really you know it. That's what I got to save
really
up
nice
for.
To cook too. Like I've been cooking a little bit more, just kind of caring about, you know, what I put in my body and if I can cook it and cool, you know, using the oven.
Oh, the what? Nah, man. I don't know.
Starting it, preheating things.
So I want to get started, and you know, Nick, you're first up on sharing just who you are and what kind of DJing you do and production as well.
Sure. So like, I don't know if you want like some backstory, but I moved to Columbus about 6 years ago. I had like started in Toledo, where I was like started with like, you know, the 2011, 2012 era dubstep stuff. And I ended right around like doing that right around when like 2012 I went to my first movement, and like I just become obsessed with house and techno, and it's kind of been my life this whole, you know, the rest of the period of, you know, from then to now. So I just like put the blanket term as house and techno, but it, you know, anything under that realm could be acid breaks, broken beat, just like things like that. And that's kind of how I've been operating, which is it, you know, I can't say multi-genre because I'm not playing like anything outside of a certain range of tempo, but I'm also not against it, you know? So house and techno.
How long have you been DJing?
What is it, 2012 or 2020? Probably for about 8 years or so.
Nice.
Didn't start getting like serious until like 6 years ago. Like I would say moving to Columbus was pretty much the point when I really started to like try to take it seriously and, you know, put out some music and do things like that. So but other than that, like I just about halfway through living in Columbus realized like I gotta start throwing my own parties if I want to do what I want to actually do, instead of like trying to play for other people's parties. And like, you know, so that's what I started. I started Head Cleaner with my buddy Dan and Corey. And then I kind of joined in on Tilt Shift, which was used to be Body Language, which was with Scott Litch. He used to do like squared events, and so I started with them. Then I started Head Cleaner, and Head Cleaners was going strong until pandemic for about 3 years or so.
I love that movement was an inspiration for you because
For sure.
it's one of my favorites and it's so damn convenient to go to. And I've also, but it's interesting because we've had DJs on here that are house and techno DJs that haven't been to movement yet, and I'm just like, you gotta go.
Yeah, it's kind of like a, you know, it's just one of those, like, when I went for the first time, I was listening and trying to make that stuff, and then I saw the context in which it can be enjoyed and like thrive, and then from then on, I'm like, why am I doing dubs? Like, I don't really want to do that, so why am I doing that, you know? So I just kind of switched over, and the rest is history, I guess.
For sure.
At your first movement, were there any DJs that you saw that were like influences to you that kind of shaped your sound, or it's just kind of like, okay, I just want to do this style now?
I think for the first one, I mean, everyone's first Richie Houghton is an experience, you know.
For sure.
Soul Clap was like one of those where it was like daytime. Everyone was just kind of grooving. It didn't feel like we had to have some sort of like end game to the like set. It was just like a feeling, and everyone, like, I don't mean to sound like cheesy, but like, it's just like, it kind of just felt like, oh, there's this groove instead of like this like end game of ups and downs and things like that. I was still kind of listening to a lot of like drum and bass and some dubstep, more so along the lines of like the original dubstep sound at the time. I remember seeing like Sinistar, who's like a juke footwork halftime drum and bass guy from Detroit, and like that kind of like inspired me to just, you know, do what exactly, because it's like sounds you just never hear before, and you're like, holy shit, like I didn't realize I could, you know, you could just do this anytime you want, like. And so yeah, Richie Hahn, Kevin Saunderson, always like one of those, you know, the original Detroit DJs, was one of the more like inspiring in the first one for sure.
Oh man.
Talk
and then
about some of those. Talk about some. Well, I was just gonna say, I really got into break beats when I went to movement, and none of my friends were into the set that we kind of just came across. I couldn't even tell you who was playing, but I was like, man, I would love to hear more break beats in Columbus, but I just don't really hear it that much.
Which one did you go to, or were your first one?
I think I've been every year since, you know, obviously not this year because it got canceled, but the last 3 years.
Okay.
But yeah, talk about some of your parties that you throw. Like, you came back to Columbus, you wanted to throw your own parties, give yourself a good look, help some other DJs. Just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, so like I said, when I first moved here, I was like immediately looking for someone to work with, to do something that's not like necessarily in the most clubby club environment, and where like we don't have to do it under the frame of like EDM, which I just kind of like put under the pop music of the time term. So like Scott Litch, who ran Squared, was throwing an event called Body Language. I joined up with them, was like, I just showed up, started moving speakers. They eventually put me on a couple opening sets. Cut to a couple years later, Body Language is no longer. I'm helping run it with Aaron Beckett and Corey and Tim Evans, and then we did it as Tilt Shift at the at Victories for a couple, like a year or two, I would say, and then maybe it was just like 3 years ago, but we rebranded it, but same idea, same spot, and then literally the same like month, Dan White, who was the co-founder of Head Cleaner, we started Head Cleaner, and I think we've always been at the summit. So we started at the summit. And then that was like more of like our baby, and me, Dan, and Corey. And at the time, Dan's ex-wife Ariel was working with us too for like visual stuff. But that was like, we wanted to do that as kind of like an answer to like what we were seeing, which was like Midwest Fresh and, you know, parties we were going to in Pittsburgh and Detroit and like all these things. We're like, we could do this and we can brand it in the way that we want, and like we can like make our imprint. So we just did it. And, you know, we started really small. I guess, you know, we were only getting 30, 40 people. I think the last one we did, there's probably like 100, 120, which is still not like a ton. But, you know, we're doing it in a way that's like 100% our decision, 100% our like, you know, drive and musical style. And, you know, the crowds are always extremely open to whatever we want to do. It doesn't even matter like who's really playing. If we just build like an environment instead of building like the bill on the flyer, you know. And that's what we've always wanted. Like we've always just wanted something to showcase artists if you care, but also create an environment where it's completely free and it doesn't matter like if you've heard, you know, which I think yields a pretty good result as far as like people's like expression, you know. And it's been
Andrew Zisler says headliner is absolutely fantastic.
Head cleaner.
Oh, or head cleaner.
Yeah, Andrew is a good friend. He's been around for a while, coming to events and shit. Cool. Love him.
Also, shout out to Stevie D is in the building.
What up, Stevie D?
Stevie.
Let's get back to that, but Christian, let's do a little intro. Talk about how you got started, how long you've been playing, and a little bit of your production.
Alrighty. I got started in high school when I was like 17, I think. And that was just kind of like open format I think I started like hip hop stuff. Didn't even know that electronic music was even like a thing. And then as I was going, I think when I was like 18, I started to hear like, you know, I guess what you would call like your mainstream stuff on the radio, like those, you know, like those edits you hear, that I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. This is a little more high energy stuff. So I started like slowly diving in, and this is all just DJing at this point. And then I think about 3 years ago is when I think it was Electric Forest or some sort of festival I went to where I saw somebody play. Again, I couldn't name the guy, but it was that more underground, I guess simplistic, but like super high energy tech house stuff that is like super big right now. And I've been going through like a lot of different, it's been like a roller coaster of like what I like and what I don't like to play and produce. So I started producing when I was like 18 as well. And that was hip hop, dubstep kind of stuff. I produced for like 2 months. I remember I got a copy of Ableton and then I quit. I just gave up because I was like, I don't get this shit. This is too confusing. And then about a year later, I picked it back up, started making, like, I actually understood the program at that point. So then I started making more like hip hop and dubstep. And then that's like at the same time when I went to, I think, Forest, and I got into like the more tech house, like I guess like booty house type stuff.
Like Dirty Bird?
Yeah, like Dirty Bird. That was like Dirty Bird was my first introduction to like the more underground type stuff.
Sure.
And then I took another break after making a lot of that style of house music. That was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I think, when I took my break again from production. And I was playing shows at that point, maybe like 5 to 10 times a year. Obviously, I love getting in front of a crowd, no matter the size. But like at that point, I was like, all right, I know that in order to really delve at myself apart as an artist from all these people that are DJing nowadays, you know, I got to start making my own music. So at that point, I'd say it was 2019 is when I got back into it. I heard this guy from the UK, Rossi, who's like big in the minimal scene now. And ever since then, that was like a little over a year ago, I I've been producing like a madman. And that's that's all I play and all I produce now is like minimal deep house. I haven't I haven't downloaded or produced like a tech house track in probably over a year now. And I'm just at this point, like 2019 was building my catalog of music. Just because like it's something that I didn't feel like I was forcing myself to like duplicate what I was hearing. It just comes so naturally, and I just absolutely love it. Like the really lush pads and
creation.
Yeah, exactly. It seems so much more natural, and that's why I think my productivity went through the roof. I think I put out like 20 or 30 records in 2019, and I'm starting to really like learn, some more things about the industry. And I mean, you only get so much better. You can't like open up Ableton, you're not going to get worse, so it's like any other instrument. You put enough hours in, you're going to get better. And I mean, even a track I made 6 months ago, I'm like, that sucks compared to what I'm making today,
Do you feel like throwing Just a Party like helped you like put what you wanted to do into like it's like practicing with a band and then having a gig, it's like you can be the best band, but then like when you get to test things out and have like control of the environment, do you feel like that's like something that helped you?
Absolutely. Because that was the beginning of, or the end of 2018 into 2019 is when we launched Just a Party. Shout out Ethan, Paul, and Nate. Really, really great guys. Nate's in DC now. And that was a really fun learning experience. And it's funny, like, we haven't like officially announced anything, but I think we're kind of dissolving Just a Party, because in that year, all four of us, we went from like okay, we love tech house, like the super high energy, like raging parties, blah, blah, blah. And over that year span, all four of us now have some really unique tastes. Like I'm in the more minimal deep house stuff. Ethan and Paul are like into like your industrial, I'm gonna mess this up, but like your hard driving techno. Nate's playing some weird techno as well now. So all of our tastes in a year's time have hardened into something that like we all kind of have our own thing, which I think is cool. It was a
so like if you were to do like a Just a Party that kind of like separates your like I guess cohesion, like, and
I think it would be cool. Maybe it's maybe do like a once a year type thing, like kind of just for the nostalgia and like saying, okay, this is what we're all about now, because we're all going to be doing our own things. Like me and a buddy started up a record label / like event series called Just Love, and that's been going pretty well. We're going to throw our own parties, which is like our own style. I know Ethan's going to be playing or throwing his own parties. Ethan's actually coming to New York soon, I think. Paul, I'm sure, is going to start throwing more parties once, everything opens up. And then Nate is in DC. He's working on throwing parties there. So we're all going to do our own little like niche things, I think, with our own personal tastes. And then, like you said, I think it would be funny and cool to do like a reunion Just a Party where we have like 4 to 5 guys, but it's rather than just one sound, it's like a mix of everything.
Sure. I think it's with the right programming, you can do anything. Like
absolutely.
Anytime anyone comes like a head cleaner, it's not like we have like one specific sound that we go for, but there's been artists that we've booked and it's been like, oh, well, I don't think we were ready for that.
You're a little far out there.
Yeah. And then there's been ones where we're like, this is just like quintessential house. Like, let's just have a good time. And, but then, there will be opening artists who don't do that. Like, I like the variety as long as it kind of is cohesive with because the way we run Head Cleaners like bookings is not to like jack this thread, but the way we run it is like we each member chooses an artist to book, and then we confirm it. So they get to book, or with like everyone, we get to decide who's gonna fit that. What we found recently, or like when we were throwing parties, was like we might as well just put like our opener as being like our like resident. And if you want to play with someone or throw somebody on the opening like hour or something, we're still gonna give our like headliner 2 hours. We only have 4 hours of programming because we start at 10. So it becomes like one of those things where it's like, well, we want to book you, friend and good DJ, but we don't have the space for this artist or this art, just to make sure we're not booking a techno guy into a fucking house person and then like switching up the energy too.
It has to make sense. Like you have the freedom to, obviously you don't want to be stuck in one lane, I think, but like when you're curating a party, it should make sense from start to finish. Like,
sure,
you don't want it to go like this and like that. You kind of want it to go like that,
I'm really glad you guys are already talking about this, because this is something that I really wanted, that I hoped you guys could share a lot about. Head Cleaner and Just a Party just being really dope parties, especially when things were going. One thing I want to know is like, what advice do you have for DJs who want to throw their own parties, maybe specifically in the underground scene? Because we've been talking about like the music and kind of organizing the night from a music perspective, but what all goes into it, from the setting up the event, the invites, who you surround yourself with, the promotion, the graphics. Like, can you guys talk a little bit more about like the deeper stuff that maybe other DJs don't understand?
Sure. Start, Christian.
Yeah. And we only did it to like preface like for a year, and I don't want to, I don't have too much of a position of knowledge about it. But just through like what I think we learned in over a year, it's obviously nice to throw your own party because, like we've said before, you get to create your own vibe and your own tastes. And then obviously you're not going to play everyone, but, as like a resident or whatever of that party, you get to play it. But I think a misconception is that it's going to cost a lot of money. I don't think it started costing us much money out of our own pockets until we started booking artists. And that's like a whole nother lane once you get, because you could throw parties with local people. Sometimes, I guess, and that's what we did. And I think we were actually more successful before. I mean, we had some successful headlining parties, don't get me wrong, but I think it's definitely a good idea to start just doing local guys. Maybe get a guy from like, a city away who's not gonna, charge you an ass load of money. And you can even get guys for like $1,000 or less if you do the right digging. But just networking is key. That's not just with parties. That's, the whole music industry. And that's something that I'm still getting better at. And all the Just a Party guys are, when you're out, you're constantly like, I think Paul would be like talking to like a barista at Starbucks, and he'd be like, "Oh, Just a Party." Hand her like some sort of flyer, like you got to always be on your toes. And even there was times where like I would walk away from a situation and I was like, shit, I should have mentioned it. But you mess up, but yeah, you're like, fuck, and you almost want to run back and say, hey, by the way, we throw parties.
But
and it's the first party's gonna suck, and then the second party's gonna suck, and then like after you do it 3-4 times, then you learn like, okay, how can we make the production cool? Like, you just got to work with your venue. I think like we started in Cantina, as you guys, I don't know if you guys were at some of our first few parties there.
A bunch of good parties have started at Cantina, right, Crow?
Yeah, man, I think the venue is, and unfortunately like Columbus is lacking 300 to 500 capacities. So it's like, if the Just a Party guys, or we start getting our numbers up to like 200, 300, which we weren't close to 200, but like those are the thing with the venue is like they have a bottom line to make. I'm sure you guys, you know, Mike and James understand that. Like you can't, as much as you would like to book someone at like Dahlia or, you know, other things, it's like if they're not going to make their bottom line, then there's no motivation or incentive to do things. So you have to find a venue that is fucking with the vision, you know. Like,
that's cool. Yeah, like if I think the best way to go about it
that's like
is do like a off the bat, like say, hey, we'll bring people here. I wouldn't say you want to promise them how many people, because if you don't hit that, then you're screwed. But say, hey, listen, like we want to do this thing. It's going to take us maybe 2 or 3 months to build it. But if you'd work with us, like approach it as a partnership, not like a business to consumer thing, you know, like give us a couple months and then you'll start to like, both of us can make a lot of money. But do you could just do like a simple bar deal. Like we won't pay you to rent it out, but you'll keep all the money from the bar. Maybe just give us 10% or like even less than that. I don't know. And then you can work from that.
We're also getting into that field where like that zone of conversation where I'm pretty against, I'm not like against, but like if you do want to do something where you have the potential to get like 150, 200 people at your event and like consistently they can spend 10, but like do not undershoot yourself by doing it at a space that like Bossy Girls is a good example where it's like there's maybe 75 capacity. Nobody wants to go dance unless it's on like a chill like weekday thing at Bossy Girls because it's really hard to connect the environment with what you want to do.
Right.
So it's like if you're throwing a club night at a bar and there's no dance floor, like you just have to be conscious of those things, you know.
Absolutely.
But one thing I want to say to you guys is because I think pre-COVID it seemed like there was so many different house parties going on. Like Christian, you talked about, you know, how many tech and techno DJs there are around us. There's so many in this city alone. So you wanted to produce and stand out and make your own style. And I think that's great. And then, but also it seemed like there would be conflicting parties all the time too. Like sometimes there would be a big house DJ playing at Scully's or, you know, whatever, Bluestone. And then we're trying to do something at Dahlia. And then there's an underground house party going on this way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not avoidable all the time because, you know, you pick a date and you lock in and you start promoting and then, you know, it is what it is. But how do you combat that? Because I feel like, you know, pre-COVID that was happening a lot. Do you just like tell those people like just stop by before you go there or like come after? Or
the way Head Cleaner has done it and the way that we learned from like Midwest Fresh was choose a weekend that the need is there and stick to that consistency. And if the venue doesn't work out, try to keep that weekend, try to keep that consistency where it's like, whoa, is it the first weekend of the month? Let's go here. And honestly, like, we're not competing with Scully's. We're not competing with Dahlia. You guys have you're going to have your crowd, you know. There might be a sharing of 50 to 75 people from what I've seen, but like, we're not trying to compete with people who have a massive budget, you know, and that's going to have to be okay in Columbus. Now, if there's 2 Dirty Bird artists booked by 2 separate groups booked on the same night, they need to communicate, you know. But if you're doing something completely separate or completely unique, then it's unavoidable if you have the consistency that you need and the branding and everything. Like you can't, I mean, we never tried to, like, there was in the very beginning where it's like we chose the first weekend of the month. There was another party going on and we were like, whoa, this is the weekend we have, so we're just going to do it. And we ended up, like, you know, it being okay. But we weren't going to throw a party on Midwest Fresh night. We weren't going to throw a party on Tilt Shift night. Well, mainly because I was part of both of those things. But like, But like we just have to have a weekend, and you have to decide like when do you want to do it, Saturday or Friday. We've found Saturdays are way better, Fridays are fine, but like
and then on
it's
top of that, you talk about the 10 or the 4 hours of programming that you get, and it is difficult because we have a lot of house DJ friends that are coming out and they're showing love, and that is how I think you should get an opportunity, is by coming and supporting your friends' events. So how do you juggle that? Like, is there 45-minute sets available? Is it like, do you give them like, no, I promise I got you next time? Like, because I know there's so many young DJs that probably watch this podcast too, that are wondering how to get their first events.
There's
I mean, I'll just like, because I feel like we got a little ahead of like what Mike asked originally, which is like to start from zero. The way I see it is like show up to events, hang out, meet the promoter, understand if the promoter's at some like, echelon, create something that is good enough for them to notice you. It is saturated now, like a little more saturated than when I came here 6 years ago. I was one of there was old school guys who the promoters I was working with squared, they already knew about them. And there was like a very small handful of young people. And then there's the ones that are always just playing with my Best Party events that they weren't sure that they could transfer over to their event. So my point is like, show up to the events. If you really want to do this with that style, go to the events, try to help out, move speakers. Like that's, like show up early, move speakers. Like I have a few friends that it's not like they were the best, and it's not like I was the best or am even close, but like you just show up and you do like the legwork, and help promote what you want to see, like
last episode we've had DJs, maybe not last episode, maybe it was 2 episodes ago, but just talking about like coming to the events and actually friending people first, and not look like you are trying to get something out of it right away. I think Mike was like, shit, if somebody wants to come help me carry DJ equipment at weddings,
I'll show you everything, bro. I will show you everything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like weddings are like a completely different world, like that's a very, very good way to make money. But it's also like, if you don't want to be a wedding DJ, don't go help Mike move speakers. But
no, don't tell him that. Don't tell him that. You can still come help. I'll show you some.
Mike's like, mute.
Yeah, I'll have a separate set of headphones that they can listen to while the music's playing, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't mean to like sound like, because when I started in Toledo, like I played some fucking wedding gigs with this one DJ, and he'd give me like a portion of his funds. I never talked on the mic, so I would just have to show up and like, and like there's a lot of bad DJing you have to do, as there's a lot of bad production you have to do before you get to a point where you're like, I should go to an event and try to play in front of people, like,
yeah.
Like play in front of your friends for hours on end until they hate you, and then just go, or love you, and then try to find what you want to do. Like, it's so simple to me now, where it's like, but it's also under a lot of hours of just like playing gigs I don't necessarily want to do, like I've played a ton of gigs where it's like, I am the only house DJ here, but I'm booked because I know the promoter, and that's cool, but like it wasn't necessarily like appreciated, but I did it, and then I met people, and then maybe they come to my event and maybe they like it, but if not, whatever, so
it's just music. I want to hop over to another question regarding this year. So with everyone being inside, you would think it'd be like a really solid year for producers, but at the same time, I think it's kind of a weird moment to release music. Do you guys feel that way? Have you had more time to produce? And do you find that the releases that you're doing this year are doing better or worse? And I want to start with Christian if we can.
Yeah, producing wise, I like, since quarantine started, like the first 6 months or so, I was doing like 3-4 tracks a week. Like it was kind of sick. And then it got to like a threshold where like the last month or two, I've been telling all my like producer buddies, like I'm in like a really big slump. And I don't know, I think it's a combination of just wearing myself out and also not like really being inspired. Like you go out to a party or the club and just hearing that live music and like knowing that like, okay, there is a scene alive that is like, I want to like, that I'm continuously working towards being a part of. Since that's not really there, I think maybe I've lost a little motivation. And I'm getting back in the past week or two. I've been listening to more mixes and stuff, doing whatever I can to kind of feel more inspired to sit down at my desk and make music. But release wise, like I said earlier, I put out a shit ton of music this year, and I have a couple more up until January. And doing well. I guess they like a good amount of copies are sold, but the downside is that with very minimal shows going on around the world, you're not going to get that support from an artist. Like that's the biggest thing, is getting support. Like you have a guy, like you get his promo email or something, like you do all your networking action, and then you finally get in touch with this guy who, like, you know, plays 4 or 5 shows a year around the world. And then if you can get like one of those dudes to play your music, that support goes a very long way. But that's like really hard to do right now. But like that doesn't bother me. That's not gonna stop me from releasing music, because at the end of the day, for me, like, yeah, it would be cool to go full time with music, but I just love the shit out of sitting down with a cup of coffee and writing some house music. So if I'm sitting on music, I'm gonna send it to a label. Hopefully they like it and they put it out.
Do you farm a lot? Like, are you looking for labels, or do you use like the connections you have with labels already? Like,
it's mostly like an organic thing through, and it's kind of crazy, like not like massive labels, but like a bunch of really cool, like minimal labels have gone out of their way to ask me for music, which is like just starting to happen, where it used to be me like, yo, can I please release with you guys?
that's the shit.
So that's been like a cool, like humbling thing. But I basically just make a list of labels, and I've ticked off like probably half of like my labels for this year. And then for next year, I'm going to do like a little bit, I'm going to make more quality and maybe less releases. So maybe like 4 or 5, but like really high quality releases. And I have like a list of like my goal labels that I want to land on, that are more recognized than the few that I hit this year. So it's like a slow, you got to build like your resume, essentially, is what I've been told by a lot of people. And I guess it makes sense. Like,
and I think when you release on labels, do you always have like the potential to do remixes on that label too?
Exactly.
Much easier way to just be like, all right, let me get a project going to re-inspire me by making something. And that's something that I've found with labels, where it's like, I haven't released something on their label in a while, but I have connection with them where I can like, oh, cool, they want a remix, so let me do that, you know?
Absolutely.
And you said you're starting your own thing too, so, or have started, so now you have the power too. You know?
I have the power in my hands to, and it's cool.
Like,
we've gotten
all of these songs I have. Here you go, world.
Yeah, exactly. If I want to put out, like, I don't want to wait, and that's like the whole. Not to like delve out too much, but the whole idea of this label is, we're just doing Bandcamp. It's simple, it's easy, and you get to keep most of the money. The distributors don't destroy you. And it's just for like anybody that wants to send us music. We've gotten some cool demos from people that, you know, from fucking across the country or the world, which is cool. But also just like, if a homie like doesn't want to wait on a label to respond, they're like, yo, can I put out some music with you? We're like, sure, we'll schedule it for this week, get some cool artwork made up, and then boom, put it out through Bandcamp. And It's been pretty successful so far. We're selling enough copies where we pay for our artwork costs, we pay for our mastering services, and we get to put out cool music. So it's cool.
Oh yeah.
I'm really hoping that DJs are paying attention to that part specifically, because from the outside looking in within the music business, I think that is the way to go as far as just putting music out, especially in the early game, until you can start to get more consistent releases on labels and that like you were saying, Christian, the resume building. But Nick, I want to ask the same question, just regard to how much time you've had this year to produce and what your releases have looked like.
So going into like COVID, I was under like this massive dry spell of like not really making much music at all. It took about 3 months into COVID for me to like consistently make a track on, like, it's funny that we're doing this on a Thursday, because like Thursday is like my game night. I play with like my friends. But like beforehand, after I get off work, I throw it on a track, put it on my SoundCloud, my like private SoundCloud, listen to it over and over again. And that's what I used to do when I was, you know, like putting things in my repertoire, which may or may not have been released at all. But just having like a collection of music where if I do find a label or I look for a label, which I do very little just because it's a chore. And so I'm not like the best person to like ask about like how do you put out music a lot. Like it's just like one of those things that I've found, like once in a while I'll find someone like that perfectly fits the, you know, sound, and I don't want to like sound something that's not appropriate, and like does it sound okay, etc. But point being, like I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty much laying down a track like every week, and at least, and I just put it on my SoundCloud and listen to it. Like I have like 20 songs and I'm just chilling on.
You do the car test?
Yeah. Which was a lot easier when you were going to events.
Yeah. Now I'm not in my car as much.
Yeah. But I've been doing that and just like sending it to friends who I think would appreciate and or be able to give me like honest feedback. And that's what I think personally, that's what I think everyone should be doing right now, is honing in on like, because now there's no events to be like, oh, I really want my song to be played by Solomon or all these like big artists, because they ain't doing shit. So it doesn't matter. Just make music right now, you know, and just make up a lot of bad music, you know, and just like explore and find like what you like about what you want to do as far as dance music. It's actually a really unique period of time that we have across the globe where like there hasn't been a lull in the ability to gather to enjoy this style of music in forever. Like and so we should be using that time to do something a little risky, you know, do something that's just like fucking weird and okay, this will never be released, but whatever, I have it, you know. And that's what I suggest to everyone, you know.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, right now, if you're trying to like get into production or like really just learn, now is the time like where you definitely shouldn't have an excuse. Well, I don't know everybody's situation, like not everybody's working from home, so I don't want to say that. But even that, like you have a weekend, like you said, you don't have FOMO of missing out on like a party. So it's a Saturday, instead of like playing video games or hanging out with your friends, like take 3 or 4 hours, watch YouTube tutorials, whatever it is, like hone your craft. Like if you really want to get super good at it, like anything, take the time to hone your craft. I think now's a good time.
To don't beat yourself up about the time that you're not doing these things, because I've found like in the beginning of quarantine, I'm like, why am I not making music? And then after a while where I'm just like, I feel like it's just like the dust settled and I realized like we're gonna be here for a while. Then I'm like, okay, let's make something, like do something really fast. Let's just fuck shit up while I'm making music, you know? Like I just made the first drum and bass track I ever made because my buddy sent me a song and I'm like, I want to remix that. and it's like I think we're gonna put it out eventually, but it's like one of those things I'm like, I probably would have never done that if I was still going to parties and still like worrying about like where I should like put this sound and put these ideas. But and it's also like a really good time to work on yourself. Like, and I think the happy producer is one that is like consistently happy. And so you got to work on yourself. You got to worry about like getting your shit together and during this time, like sleep a lot, eat healthier, you know, start working out, stop using these excuses that you had because you had a party or you're recovering from one, you know, and that's going to help production wise, you know, overall as a person, in my opinion. So
James, same question.
Well, kind of like what Bistany was saying, you know, for me, inspiration is huge coming from live shows. When COVID happened, canceling a lot of shows and then missing Electric Forest was a huge mental killer for me. And then, you know, I released like 3 songs in July. And after that, I was just kind of like, on top of all this, like I do this full time. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. So now I'm trying to also set my focus on maintaining a DJ career. So like production was even more so put on a back burner, just on top of the lack of inspiration. I don't think motivation was ever an issue. I've always known I'm going to get back to making music, but with everything, the way it's unfolding, I wanted to like commit my time to Peerless Group, who's given me all these DJ opportunities, got me signed to an agent, like, and just really helped jumpstart my career. So have you ever had an agent before? What is it?
Have you ever had an agent before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been with Scam Artists for 2 years now, and they were booking me mostly Midwest, but some California and stuff like that, and that was going really well, you know. And I had to cancel some shows that I was going to travel for, but of course I was playing a lot of open format shows as well. It's not all house. But you know, I was scheduled to play Freaky Deaky, so just not having any of these shows has really killed my. And then on top of that, I started playing Warzone, which, like you said, gaming is not the answer. But
it's definitely I agree with that.
You know what though? You know, I found it actually helps, but like only in the sense that like there's something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it eats up a lot of time though. Like I was playing fucking World of Warcraft before the quarantine.
Oh gosh, so you definitely.
When I stopped is exactly when I started making music again.
Yep. Big correlation to that. I want to get in some DJ news. We're not going to talk about it too much today, maybe with our guests next week, but Pioneer released their S11. They said, you know, F the S10. We're just going to go straight from S9 to S11. So a lot of the battle mixer DJs I know are excited. I haven't gotten to look into it too quickly because it came out like literally today. They just announced it, so I haven't seen any of the YouTubers put their reviews or first looks out, but definitely excited. I think it was well overdue, and good to see Pioneer releasing even more gear. James, I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And then Serato got the update 2.4, which adds beat source link from DJ City. So streaming while you're performing is becoming more and more of a thing. So now it's not just tracks. Now we're going to have intro edits, remixes, and things like that. Again, probably not going to talk about that too much today.
City to do
yes, that. big from DJ City, and that they believe they partnered with Beatport. So Christian and Nick, that could cool. be. Yeah, that I know that's an important platform for you both and what you do. Couple of things that Serato added was master output through the laptop speakers. People have been asking that for ages.
Sorry, I gotta pause you really quick. Sorry.
Yep, you're good. And then they're going to be do easier live streaming straight from Serato was added, and then advanced MIDI mapping. So a ton of great things. Bartycut said, bet the S10 is coming soon. And it's going to be the S11 with no touchscreen. Barty, that is exactly, that's a great point. that makes kind of do what Rain did with the 72 having the touchscreen and then 70 not having a touchscreen. It's a great point. Barty's watching on Twitch. So big shout out to Barty Cuts. He's been streaming a bunch and showed me a bunch of really cool things. He runs a Jazz Tuesday there. So thanks for tuning in, Barticus. James, you want to take us into show and tell? I mean, we might need to give Brenner a second to get back, but maybe you can explain it and we'll hop over to Christian.
Yeah, we just try to shift gears here, and anything that's around you that is significant to you, man, DJing or non-DJing related. If you have anything to share, we've had some pretty funny or pretty interesting show and tells. We've seen some pretty killer equipment too. Somebody shared their dog once. Somebody shared a pregnancy photo. So no pressure.
Guns, Bibles.
Am I grabbing something?
Or
is someone else starting us off?
No, you got to start us off. Nick's AFK.
All right, let me go.
James, have you watched The Social Dilemma yet?
Is the mic
Sounds beautiful,
okay?
Bro. Sounds
That's
so good.
What were you saying though?
I was saying, have you watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix yet?
Yes, and I'm scared for my life.
It's terrifying.
Right?
It really is terrifying.
We can talk about that after this though.
So this is, I don't know if it's going to fit in the screen, but I got this a few months ago. This is my baby right here.
Ooh,
it's a Korg Mini log. Once I started buying analog stuff, I can't stop now. But it's a really bad habit. It's an expensive one as well. But it's like my first analog synthesizer. So just kind of getting the hands on, like, just because I'm obsessed with, making beats. So, like,
did you ever watch that Dead Mouse?
I got this hand me down.
I actually did. I did get the Dead Mouse masterclass.
That was my almost
hand-me-down audio fucking keyboard.
Hold up, Nick. We can't hear you right now. Sorry, was there anything else you wanted to say about that, Christian? I think we.
Oh no, you're good. That's basically it. If you like making really like warm, lush, beautiful like sounds, and it's like pretty simple, like breakthrough kind of device, then I would highly suggest that piece of equipment.
Dude, it looks like a good time using analog stuff. I watch Buku mess with his stuff all the time.
You just twist knobs and turn shit until it sounds cool. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Brenner, we're doing show and tell. If you've got anything additional you want to share, it doesn't have to be DJ related, but it can be. If you have anything around you.
Me?
Yeah.
Like I said, I got this. My buddy had this like in his attic. I normally am just like a drag and drop, like I actually use Fruity Loops, so like just dragging it. But this has been kind of nice. It's just the M Audio, like super cheap, just MIDI controller. Some like
So you have it all hotkeyed up to your Fruity Loops or Fruity Loops?
It's just like if I plug it in, I can play instead of playing on my actual keyboard. I can just like play what I want with the VST that I'm using. So, which I use like pretty like Massive and Harmor, which like comes with Fruity Loops, and then I just got Iris. There's like some VSTs that it just like I really connect with, and like I don't even use Serum. I know.
You should check out Diva from UHE Audio. Really nice VST.
And like it just depends on like what I'm making, because like I could start from nothing and try to like make a synth that I'm like been trying to make out of a sample, like, and Fruity Loops just has a really good like sampling ability. So I've just found like ways, and the music I make, honestly, like it doesn't need like the best sounds. It just needs like something I can work with. But other than that, I pretty much have not bought anything. Like like looking around my studio, I'm like
we started sharing keyboards, and Alex Wentz said that Nick was getting really excited.
Yeah, he was. Hey, Nick, while you were gone, we had kind of a mini chat. Have you seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix? Have you watched that yet?
I have not.
All right, that is going on your list. I don't know. Do you? Yeah, it's got to go on your list. I want to talk about that a little bit. I was hoping everyone had seen that, but basically, for those of you who have not seen it, it's on Netflix, and it just goes over some of the dangers and the ways that social media is designed to keep you coming back, and then the way they show you ads and how that can be bad, and kind of where we can go from here with it. But all of us have been on social media today. We're all content creators. I just wanted to get your thoughts on how that program made you feel, and did it change any of your habits? Because I know there's very few times I watch something and it changes my habit immediately. Usually it happens over time. I watched that and immediately turned off notifications for everything that I didn't deem absolutely necessary. So I'm down to like email and text message only. Yeah, you said that. Go ahead, Christian.
I literally did the exact same. I watched it and I was like, oh, okay. All the notifications on everything except for like iMessage and my email. And the world of a difference it makes, when you see like a ding, something pops up, you're like, oh, I got to open my phone. And then next thing you know, you're on your phone for 20 minutes. It's changed the game for me.
I feel like before that came out, just as like a mental health thing, this is like my pattern. I take Facebook off my phone during the days I work, like at my day job. And then on the weekend, I'll put Facebook back on my phone. Instagram and Twitter they're not even close to the amount of time that I like spend on Facebook or potentially could spend. When I'm on my desktop, there's too many entertaining things that Facebook's not like. Point being, I've never had notifications like shut up to my phone for social media, except for like a few things on Instagram, just because like I don't have like the amount of pull for Instagram and I just started like using it more, etc. But like those are things that like I can't get involved in because they're just time wasters, honestly. Like,
sounds like you're more disciplined than 95% of the world.
100, yeah.
Well, I used to not be, and it got to that, like I'm just sitting here, during pandemic and I'm depressed because I'm looking at Facebook, and then I realized don't have it on your phone for a little bit. Like, so like, again, Facebook for me is like, that is the time waster.
Mike, I would also say after you watch Social Dilemma, check out the latest Edward Snowden podcast with Joe Rogan.
I already watched it, bro.
Isn't that crazy?
It was real crazy. Yeah, I definitely recommend that as well.
Yeah, if you're into like what's going on behind the scenes of the government in today's world, you should watch that because we're always asking questions, especially these days, about our government. Like, and he has good things and bad things to say about our government. So it's like a very realistic approach, very neutral.
I know I didn't get to watch it, but Leek was watching that Challenger documentary. And there's another thing where like you tell people one thing, but like behind the scenes, like something else is going on. You were gonna say something, Nick?
Oh, I was just saying I haven't watched or listened to Joe Rogan in a while just because like sometimes I feel like he doesn't let the guests talk enough. And do you think that the Snowden one was like a good one that like Snowden actually gets to
because it's one of their more viewed podcasts, and it's basically just Snowden taking the floor, talking about, well, the first time he had Snowden on was about obviously, him getting, having to go to Russia because he leaked all that CIA stuff.
Yeah.
Which ended up, he actually just recently, they came out and said that what the CIA was doing was illegal. Mm-hmm. So now he's just waiting to be pardoned. And like Trump said he'd think about it. And now he's just sitting somewhere around the world just waiting to see if he can come back and live in the US. But I just want to give a shout out to Alex Fear joined us. And Chris Robinson gave you a shout out, Bistani. And then
oh my God,
we got Paul Conrad in here, Alex Wentz. So yeah, we got a good looking crew in here right now.
What up, Chris?
So I actually have a question for you two, because you guys or Mike and James, because you were obviously more prolific with your gigs and stuff. Like, and this is a question that like everyone is thinking about right now, but like when are you going to go back? Like, is it vaccine? Is it, you know, like when
So
are
I'm
you
a,
gonna be okay?
Yeah, man, we're back.
so a lot of the
So you've been
there's like,
DJing like live?
yeah, I'm DJing.
Mhm.
I'm DJing, but it's social distance. So we just started letting GA, like a limited GA back in, and most of it's tables. We lowered prices for tables to make it realistic, but they're only trying to fill the venues up 50% capacity. No venues are actually trying to profit, I would say. It seems like from what I've seen so far, they're just trying to pay rent and pay their staff so
Yeah.
that staff can work to some extent. But you know, I'm not living in fear. Like a lot of us, many people have already had the virus, or um you know, if you're out right now, then you have either you're already sick back in early summer, or you are just really good at like staying and keeping your space, because the bars, no matter what, if you go out, whether it's social distancing or not, you're running a risk. um
Yeah, I
but
mean,
it's just a matter of like what your lifestyle is. Like a lot of
yeah,
people are starting to not fear it as much as they did, because there was a lot more panic. Obviously, when COVID first happened, there was just a lot more unknown. Now you're starting to see more staff trained at restaurants properly, more like better, just better rules implemented at all the bars and restaurants. And then, you know, at 50% capacity, so you can avoid people. But it's not the same, man. It's really frustrating. You know, I think once a vaccine is out, I think once the curfew's lifted, you know, we'll see how that goes. There's just so much unknown still, but
yeah,
I'm optimistic because,
sure.
you know, I think I think, you know, I'm not saying that this can get political, but I think a lot of the like cities and stuff that aren't open right now could be a political thing. A lot of the bars not opening and stuff. So we'll see what happens in the next few months, and then I think we'll have a better idea of like if we can actually start DJing.
Do you feel like because you have a stake in these places that you're playing, regardless of like your like deep involvement, like if you didn't, would you? Because I've been trying to operate under the idea that like I simultaneously want places to still exist,
Yeah.
but I also want there to not be any events right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like,
Because you want
I
to see
actually,
cases go down and you want things to be
yeah,
good.
and like I don't fault people who are trying to do it safely, but I also don't see that cases are going down as much, and I don't see like, and again, it's been politicized out the fucking ass, and like I don't want to get into that segment of it,
That's
but
fine.
like, do you guys feel like if you didn't have a stake or your livelihood wasn't like built on that, would you keep playing events? Like, do you think it's like
So,
worth it? You know?
so here, I'll answer your question this way: if there was some kind of universal basic income, and I was able to comfortably sit at home without worry of, you know, rent, bills, everything like
Sure.
that. Like, let's say I was able to break even staying home. I would not be doing my weddings. I would not be doing events. And if I think that were the case, I don't think anyone really should. We can squash
Right.
this really, really quickly. That is not the case. So I think it's all about risk mitigation. No one's perfect. As concerned as I am about the virus, as concerned as other people, no one's perfect. So I know I go to two places that are, we'll call it medium to high risk, the gym and weddings and some like lounges and things where I'll go DJ. So so I try not to go anywhere else. When I'm around people who aren't in those spaces, I'm extra careful. I wear my mask 99% of the time. I got caught going into Kroger the other day. I walked into Kroger and I'm like, man, it feels kind of good in here. And I was like, I forgot my mask. So
like your facial hair is like getting like air, and you're like, whoa.
Exactly. But I'm like running out like, damn, I'm that guy. Yeah, man. So yeah, if I had the option of just staying home and letting this like ride out, I would. But
I agree with that. I agree with you, Mike. And also everyone's situation is different and everyone has different health conditions. And, this curfew thing really didn't change the cases. The cases are still very high. So
it's something that we've never dealt with. So like, I'm reasonable in the sense that like, people still need to gather and places still need to exist. Do you like, so because I have not been out at all, like zero, and there's places that I want to support, like Scotty Namath's Daddy's, which is like on Parsons, just opened up before the pandemic. It's like the worst time because then like, a new bar, like
Forums in that as well. Forum had that.
Same idea. So it's like, do you guys feel like the people who do show up, is it enforced? Is it because like you're the people you're the soldiers on the street. I don't have any like view, and like you don't have to like say anything that's gonna, put those places in detriment. But do you feel like the people are being somewhat safe? Like,
I'll take this one first, and I'm going to say something that's kind of unpopular, but this is how I feel. I know a lot of people are disappointed, and they're like, well, what happens after 10 o'clock or what happens at 11 o'clock that people, our cases going up really after 11. And I go to bars. I've been to like an underground party. I've been to weddings. Alcohol makes people either not care or not remember about the safety precautions. So what few people are following the rules in, Soberland, that number gets cut even lower when we talk about involving alcohol. So I'm probably the one DJ who thinks that maybe bars being open till 11 is a solid compromise, because I don't want to see them closed, but I see what happens when people get drunk. Perfect example, I was tweeting all this weekend. I had 2 weddings, and people will wear their mask on the dance floor and they'll walk up to me and I'll be like, all right, cool. And then as soon as they get to me, they want to take their mask down and like yell their request in my face. And I know they're not doing it maliciously. No one is, but
slide.
If that's what's happening, it's, I get why that happens, and people are trying, but at the same time, alcohol will make you forget or make you not care as much.
I agree with that, but I also would say that, I'm seeing what happens at 11:01, and it's just people setting up an after party.
Sure.
So, the curfew thing's not really doing much.
But James, like that's, to me, like you can't control people hanging out on their own time, but you can control public spaces. Like, so I do understand what you're saying with that. But
yeah, I guess it's all perspective, because I think I get your opinion, and I think a lot of people share your opinion. And then I think, 50% of people in this city share a different opinion, which is, I can be safe, but I can still make this work. There's just a shit ton of procedures put in place to try to avoid getting infected. There's a lot of training that we've all been through. We go through countless meetings. We have the health department. We have other health special teams come in, like whether it's our venue or just to our meetings, and explain the new procedures of like just all kinds of stuff that's going on that makes us feel a little bit better about throwing stuff. It's not like, because I know, like, when people think Dahlia is back open, for example, like they think about the 4 years that Dahlia was open. Like, it was a shit show. It's packed wall to wall. There's no space.
Like people are just like spinning each other's mouths. I'm just kidding.
Oh shit. Well, it's not like that right now. And honestly, we have like 50 people at a time in the entire venue. So and then as far as restaurants, you know, some of them have dividers, some of them have spaced out sections. So it can work. It's just a matter of like, yes, there's always that person that drank too much that can compromise the whole room. Or you have somebody that like just won't put their mask on and they've been asked and then they have to get kicked out, but like who knows if it was too late. Like that is the risk that you run, but you also run that same risk going to the grocery store, going to the gym, you know, like going to a movie, whatever it is. So it's all perspective. I feel like every state is different. Everyone has a different opinion. And as a DJ, like that's good that you want to take that stand because you want the longevity of the industry to come back. But it's my opinion that I don't think that what we're doing with 50% capacity right now is hurting. Just trying to stay afloat as a business is the direct effect of rises of COVID.
Sure. It's also kind of, I guess, in a way, like easy, like it's a scapegoat too, where it's like, well, look, because like, I mean, I went to the protests when like Black Lives Matter movement was like, and the immediate response to people who were just not convinced of the seriousness of COVID were like, that's causing, you know, a rise, not looking at the objective like numbers that would happen anyway. So I guess in one way or another, like there's like a way that we can find that middle ground and not blame just like one thing, you know. And like Ohio's doing okay. So
I feel like we're in a nice oasis in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm not worried about like you two. It's just you guys have a unique perspective.
Yeah, I know you weren't like,
you know?
I know you were just asking for my input, but Alex Fear wanted to know about New York City real quick, Bistani. Like what is there any progress there?
In general, from what I understand, it's not like I'm playing a party tomorrow, but they have pretty strict rules. Tables only inside, and then outside, you know, standing tables. Obviously, all of the precautions that we know up to date, which is, you know, you're 6 feet apart, everybody wears masks. And then there's a capacity, and it goes till 11, I believe. So probably same procedures going on there. This is like a little pop-up party. Nothing like wild. I haven't seen any like major events getting thrown. Like I was supposed to play Elro with a buddy of mine. I mean, that's been rescheduled. So large events like that, I think are just going to keep getting pushed back. It's like the city being open, I think it's slowly getting back. Like restaurants are at a certain capacity. I think the rules are pretty similar. I honestly haven't paid attention enough. I kind of just stay in my little neighborhood in the Bronx, and then we'll play a party or here too there in like Brooklyn or whatever. But it's all, I think, the same rules as Ohio. Maybe not as open, but I'm hopeful within the next couple months that changes, because
I mean, you guys have 9 million people, so it's like, you know.
A shit ton of people are moving out of the city for good.
Oh, really?
It's insane.
Mass exodus.
It's a max, and people aren't coming back. Like they're not just going for a little bit; they are selling their homes.
Wow.
I think I read an article like it's been 13 years since apartment prices have been this low in the city.
Jeez.
Interesting.
LA, it's happening in LA too.
Yep.
I want to hit one more. Sorry, go ahead, Christian.
No, you're good. I was just saying everybody's getting out.
I want to hit one more thing on this before we move on to tastemakers. People are often talking about the risk of COVID, like the virus, you know, in the cases and the spreading. But I think there's another risk that there's a lot of business that won't be around if, you know, you're not able to be open till 11. So especially us as DJs, one thing that I don't want to see is everything get shut down again. And then, you know, maybe there's not a Dahlia, a Scully's, a Seesaw, a Bluestone when the dust settles in March. And then we have even fewer places to play and we're forced to stream. So a lot of people talk about the risks on the virus side, and I'm there too. But I think there is an argument for the risks of these businesses being open and having places to play when this is all over. But I want to move over to Tastemakers. We want to talk about music a little bit. What have you guys been listening to lately? Has it been your own stuff? Has it been other Columbus producers? Has it been other artists, underground, old school? Let's start with Christian.
I basically listen to house music 24/7. But I'll just throw out a bunch of the friends' names. Fear and Low, if Alex is watching, Zach.
Who are those guys?
Yeah. My buddy Kyle, William, Chris Robinson, who's in the chat. Ethan. All my friends like that. A lot of them I haven't even met. Like, I made music with this dude, Connor Harris, in Ireland. Super cool guy. He makes sick. I mean, there's so many good producers out there right now. It's hard to name.
They send you demos for feedback, like constructive feedback.
Yeah, so there's like, I would say between like 4 or 5 people we like go back and forth with like feedback. And you leave like SoundCloud comments or whatever. And it doesn't really go past those like 5. You know, these are like the kids you were actually close with, you know. And that, you know, constructive feedback is always awesome. I don't ever not send a track out through SoundCloud after I finish it, because I'm like, oh, what do you think? What do you think?
You don't send it to people that won't give you feedback either, you know?
Right, exactly. Because, I mean,
people that are like, dude, great track, amazing. This is
yeah, but like they don't know, you know, like they're just like, cool. Keep pressing buttons on your laptop. Yeah. Good job. But just there's too many people to name. But yeah, those guys I named, and then this guy Parsec is really sick. He's from the UK. Really, I've been like really inspired by his stuff lately.
How do you spell Parsec?
Parsec.
Thank you. Brenner, what you been listening to, bro?
Honestly, I think a better way to like me telling you what I've like downloaded and like played is just to link some of the mixes I've made since quarantine. So I've done 3, and then I actually just recorded a mix today before this.
Dope.
For my buddy Daryl Stout. He does a radio show in Cleveland, and I always put like the track list and stuff, and people can kind of like go into that as much as they want. I would say for like personal friends, like all the Head Cleaner crew, which is now me, Rocky, who doesn't make any music yet, and Corey, who is kind of taking a hiatus from making any music. He hasn't made anything very recently, but like I've been using this time as like to go back into what I've loved about music, as far as like looking more into the hip hop zone. Like anything Freddie Gibbs does is amazing. I can tell you like the most recent 2 albums that I've listened to this week was Matt Zoe's new album, which I don't even like play anything along those lines, but he's always been like an amazing producer. And then Machine Drum actually just put out something in August that was like really, really cool. So those 2 like bigger artists are the ones that I've been like kind of in my, you know, SoundCloud, and just like going through like old hip hop or old rock and roll, honestly, metal, like anything. Like I've been trying to look for inspiration beyond just like dance music.
Sure.
There's certain podcasts that I'll always listen to. The new one, like all the Deck Mantle podcasts, RA, like Resident Advisor always has a decent podcast with new artists, and just kind of like looking into that stuff, and not really like trying to be inspired by like what is trending in those sense, and just seeing how artists are handling what they actually want to like put out as a mix or whatever.
Sure.
So everyone can just go to my SoundCloud if they want to like listen to the mixes I was talking about. And again, I have all the track lists, so I put a few of my own in there. Christian and I need to share music more, but
we do. We do. I gotta send you a garage. I can't even, a UKG track I made.
Okay.
I think you'd like it. It's I only made one.
Like I'm always down to listen. And also like if there's an idea, this goes for like honestly anyone listening or even you and James, like if you want to like send me something that you're like, I'm not going to finish this, just send me the sentence and then I'll be like, all right, let's work on this. And then, you know, like that's the way I like to work, where it's not like regimented, like it's just, hey, this is never, there's something missing and I don't know what it is. Here's this track, you know?
Right.
James?
I love working that way. Like, but yeah, like I can't even name like specific labels or anything that are like putting out anything that I'm like,
oh, that's cool, man. I think people can hop over to your SoundCloud, like you were saying. You named a few artists and stuff that you were listening to, so it works. James, what you been listening to, bro?
I got a mix this week. Shout out to Jay for sending me to. It's Sid's Night Service radio. What episode was it? It's so good. It's episode 87, Night Service Only Radio. And I don't know, I've been listening to a lot of house music this week, preparing for Noizu next week. And then I've also got some other house DJs in the works for Dahlia it's going to be nice to get these house shows going, hopefully November. Actually just locked in somebody this week that I'm excited about. And then I got to give you a hip hop one too, because I always do that.
Yep.
21 Savage new album, Savage Mode 2.
You stole my answer. I was gonna say
really?
that the 20, man.
No, it's good. It's
really solid. Really solid album. It actually came on kind of randomly. I was putting some studio stuff together, and I was like, "Oh, just give me a hip hop artist." And like, I've been listening to Drake too much, and I'm like, "Who else is good?" And yeah, I really like his rap style. It's slow enough that you can pay attention. You can hear things without having to pay attention to it, but there's also content. So I really like 21 Savage, and then I've also been listening to a lot of the female rappers, so the Meg Thee Stallion, the Cardi B's, City Girls. I'm still on that. I still think that's like the.
Did you see Cardi B and Offset got back together after being divorced, filed for divorce 21 days ago?
No, man, I'm not paying attention. There's so much that that is not even close to my radar right now. I didn't know they broke up.
So, I just saw on Facebook. This is why the social dilemma. I should have listened, because I'm seeing that stuff on Facebook and it's getting my attention.
James, it's like one of those things where it's like it's like, why do I know?
Why do I care about that? Why do I have knowledge about that?
Why did I know Cardi B as a child? I didn't even listen, you know? Like,
after this podcast, I'm getting on and deleting all notifications from everything.
Do it.
Just don't do it to Facebook Messenger. Someone tried to hit me up about business through that, and I was like, oops. Missed that for 2 days. Last segment of the show, guys, is my favorite tips for listeners. There's already been such great advice on production, but I wanted you to share maybe something that's helped you that maybe other DJs wouldn't say, or something that DJs don't know about. And this time we'll start with Nick.
As far as like DJing goes, just buy like the shittiest controller you can find that you can learn how, like, make sure that there's a 3-band EQ on it, and just learn how to mix tracks together in like the like within the structure of those tracks. Pay attention to BPM, but like pretty much like do not worry about buying the right equipment. I think that's like one thing that I never did, and I just like learned how to play on CDJs because I found a friend before my first gig with CDJs, and I was just like, well, I just need to go practice for a couple hours on that. But like, you're gonna find the basics not on the CDJs or the nice mixer, and that's pretty much it. Like, as far as DJing goes, like, just buy a nice or a shitty controller, learn how to play, and then it'll kind of transfer over if you have
I like that.
Try to learn how to play on vinyl. It will transfer over 100 times over, but also buying vinyl is a fucking nightmare. So
Basically, you're saying learn how to mix 2 songs with the cheapest controller before you take the next step.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that as well.
I don't know if like anyone had said that before. I didn't go back into the other ones, but like that's something that I learned very like.
Mike, I have a tip this week too after Bistani's.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I guess I'm gonna go back to production because that's all I have, I guess. Don't be afraid to like reach out to people through like social media, like artists that like inspire you. You can, especially now, like you can reach out to artists because they're not playing 4 or 5 gigs or 7 days a week. Like pretty big guys that you don't think check their DMs. You could say, hey, can we do a Zoom call for an hour and I'll throw you $30 and you show me like what you do. And I've done it. I did it a while ago, actually, with the Dirty Bird artist, but I'm trying to, there's a few guys I want to reach out. I have a list of guys I'm going to reach out to soon here. And like, I have some friends who have reached out to people through Instagram. Like I'm talking big guys in the scene, and they had a one-on-one Zoom call. They showed them some of the sickest like production tips, and just, yeah, like that's an option, especially now when these DJs aren't touring. So don't be afraid to reach out and just ask for any advice.
I really like that one. What do you think, Krupp?
That is a good one. I mean, we don't get a lot of production tips too, so I like it.
What maybe, Christian, what was one thing that you learned on your Zoom call with, you said there was a Dirty Bird art. Yeah. What was maybe one takeaway from your Zoom call with him?
He taught me a lot. Shout out. Really nice guy. I think he kind of, in the broads, he taught me like mixing stuff. Like I would say what I still use to this day is his mixing techniques. And we can go on about mixing for like 8 hours, but
like mix downs.
Yeah, mix downs, like making all, like you have 30, 40 tracks in a song, and you can even do a full record in like 20 tracks. Like basically like simplicity is key. Hone in on like the 3 or 4 main elements, make them as best as you can. Don't be afraid to spend time, but not too much time. Know when's best to move on. Like don't process a fucking kick drum for an hour.
Right.
Because by the time you're done processing that kick drum, you're burnt out. Like move along quickly. Like, and you can, that's another quick tip. Yeah, like make templates. Like you can have a good kick drum from the start without any processing. Don't just find a good sample rather than having 10 EQs and all this shit on it. Like,
and don't be afraid to sample. Like, I'm not talking like a splice sample that just like makes the whole song. Like, don't be afraid to sample every single drum and just process the drum how you want, you know? Like that's another thing that I have learned over the years too. And not to like take over your thing, but like,
no, that's absolutely right. I agree.
Like you don't have to make your own drums and shit. Like it's like, how different can you be with those things?
Exactly.
James, your tip?
I had a production tip because even though I haven't been producing a lot lately, I've been getting sent demos and stuff, but it's basically just, you know, your main parts of your tracks. Don't use splice samples, sounds to sample, the same sound packs that everyone has, the Cashmere's, the Vengeance, don't use those loops for if you're actually trying to release music, or at least alter them in such a way. Like I hear the same samples and the same everything in so many different tracks. So and they're using them and I've been guilty of this too, using it in a way that it stands out so much as like one of your signature sounds, whether it's in your bass line or a melody or something like that. So you know, be unique there. And I would even say the same goes with like presets. You know, especially those like Serum dubstep presets, like you hear the same dubstep everywhere.
There's a couple
Meg the
thousand
Stallion
tracks that have that same freaking thing.
It's like you'll see like an up and coming producer, and then suddenly like their shit sounds so tight, and you're like, oh, I just didn't find those samples in the like serum or those preset, and it's just like, all right, like I understand, like nobody's reinventing the way to use the funky drum or drum break or all these things, but people notice when like your shit sounds exactly like this.
Levels.
And it's such it's a
damn levels. People can't make a different track than levels.
My production life changed completely when I realized, and it's funny, Alex once lived with me in Toledo when I figured out how to make the saw synth that Zed had been using in like, Don't Slam the Door and like all these like tracks that he got popular. This is like 2012, 13.
Mm-hmm.
And once I figured that out, I'm like, well, I can't use that. It's like just people need to understand that. Like,
it's like a lot of these Dirty Bird presets and the Fisher one. It's like, man, these sound cool, but like,
and they're advertised. Like you see an advertisement, like, do you want to sound like Fisher? Like this? It's like, no. I mean, most beginners I think would jump all over that, and then they wonder why their demos aren't getting signed. It's like, you can just again watch a tutorial on YouTube, and you can make your own unique sounds.
Alex Fear says good samples are way more important than processing. I think he's talking about like your kick.
Yeah, and like what you said, James. Don't drag and drop like loops and samples from Splice, but like like a single hit samples like a kick or a hi-hat. You can find a good one rather than trying to EQ the shit out of it.
Right, I agree.
I want to move over. Where can people find you guys, both online and if at all in person? I'll start with Nick again.
Online. So I pretty much dropped the Kamikaze moniker. I'm not paying attention to it at all on Facebook, and I took it off my Twitter and Instagram. So it's just my Brenner it's just Brenner, my last name on Facebook. And then I think Instagram, it's like just Brenner, or it might be Kamikaze Brenner as my like way to like kind of, jump into that. And then Twitter might also be Kamikaze Brenner or something.
What's your most used?
Like, I don't even know what my handles are. But
is Facebook the best way to find you?
Yeah, like I post like most of my stuff on Facebook, like for sure. Like, and my Brenner, and honestly, Head Cleaner too. Like Head Cleaner so Brenner and Head Cleaner. That's the easiest.
But don't contact you on Facebook because your notifications are off and your app is deleted.
No. I mean, if you message me, I will respond, like for sure. And if we're not friends, I like sometimes check because like I'm not getting like any, people aren't just like randomly hitting me up. How do you become this person? And I feel like that's not me, So just hit me up if you have any questions. Like I'm totally okay with answering anything I know. So.
Love it.
Christian?
Pretty sure it's just Christian Bistani on everything. I really only use Facebook and Instagram. SoundCloud, same thing, and Spotify. Emails, christianbistanimusic@gmail.com. Reach out wherever.
Things.
Just keep it.
Do you have plans to come back to Columbus or?
I guess we'll see what happens with work. Like we were talking earlier before we started, I think back to the office is going to be a very long time. So, I'll definitely come and visit. Maybe do like some parties there or something. But I'm definitely enjoying New York at the moment. Yeah, so sure. It's kind of up in the air. I don't know where I'll be. I don't know where I'll be next month. So.
We're going to move over to 614 releases. 614 is the apparel brand that we partner with. They do great work. I'm sure they'll be coming out with some fall and winter things here shortly. I've been checking their page. Haven't seen anything quite yet. But big shout out to 614. We call this 614 releases. And if you are a DJ or producer, you release a track, a mix, let us know so we can feature it. I know Intel released Atlas. I saw that on my Instagram feed. I think Governor's coming out with the track. Yes, he is busy. Yeah, he's in the studio all the time. Love that dude. And then Govin, I know, released a track last Friday for his Bandcamp Fridays. I did not catch the title of it, but you can always head over to GVNR on Facebook, Instagram to check that out. I released a Streamlabs OBS overlay video. So if you want to upgrade your stream overlay and look really, really good, doing it, you can watch that video. I also have a streaming tips that I did earlier in the year, and then I also did an MPC Live 2 review. As most of you guys know, I'm a Machine Plus user now, but I tried out the MPC and I talked about the differences and did a couple workflows, both with finger drumming and with making a quick beat. Krupp, was anything on your release radar this week?
No, nothing.
Cool. Guys, I want to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for being guests. Christian out there in New York, thanks for joining us. And then Nick, all your insight is really appreciated, dude. I love the head cleaner events. I think I came to the last one I went to was when you featured that Detroit artist who was the turntablist. And yeah, man. And someone like me loves that.
You see him and you're just like, all right, well, time to go practice.
Yeah. 100%. And it was cool because you could just tell he's done those routines thousands and thousands of times.
But even in a new, he just is he's a savant. He knows he's the best. He's one of the best DJs in the world, no question.
And then on Christian's, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yep. And then on Christian's side, Just a Party. My favorite piece of content that you've ever done with that was the Big Bar video with the drone. And some of my favorite DJs were kind of on the list, and it was a great content. Great content. Party. James, take us out.
Thank you guys. Stay safe. We hope to get your parties back here. Episode 27. We appreciate it. Thanks to all the DJs that chimed in and joined us. We'll be back next Thursday.
Thank you guys for having us. Appreciate it.
Of course. No, thank you for being on here, guys. So much good advice.
Have a good one.
Yep. Peace. Take care, everybody.